Hello, I'm Curtis Rainbolt, a technical service rep with BASF, and I'm located out in Idaho. Thanks for the opportunity to share with you today some of our solutions for the wheat acre. When I think about the wheat growing season and the things that need to be done in order to maximize yield, I like to break that down into some segments. That helps me determine exactly what needs to be done in those times and what part of the yield components we're protecting. So I'll go through each of these phases from establishment, growth and tillering, the rapid growth period, and then late season, and talk about a couple of the BASF products that fit there. This slide shows the BASF products that are labeled for use in wheat and the approximate application times that fit throughout the season. I'm not going to be able to hit on all of these today, but I wanted to go ahead and show you the full scope of these. If you think back to this slide on the critical stages for wheat growth and yield maximization, establishment is one of the most important. While wheat is a relatively plastic plant that can tiller and compensate for a poor stand, the best way to maximize your yield potential is to start off with a great stand. And seed treatments are an excellent way to ensure that that happens. And at BASF, we have an excellent seed treatment portfolio. One of our best offerings is Stamina F4, which I'll speak a little bit more on a couple of slides, but that's a broad spectrum fungicide protection. And then if you're in an area where you have particularly high levels of rhizoc or fusarium, Rollinia seed treatment can be added onto that. Poncho XC is our insecticide for wheat. And then I'll spend a little bit of time talking about Teraxxa, which is an important product for those of you who are facing wireworm challenges. Getting a wheat crop off to a fast and uniform start is critical as far as finishing strong when it comes to yield. And as I mentioned, one of the best ways to do that is with the seed treatment. Stamina F4 is a four-way, that means four active ingredient, broad spectrum disease control seed treatment. So some of the active ingredients, F500, that's our plant health molecule. You know that, may know that from something like Headline or Headline Amp. Very important for improved stress tolerance as well as disease control. The second active ingredient in there is our Xemium molecule. Provides excellent translocation and systemicity, so it moves from the seed up into the small plant and provides a high level of disease control. Stamina F4 also includes triticonazole, which is important for smuts, bunts, fusarium, rhizoc, and other diseases, and it includes metalaxyl for control of pythium. In addition to providing excellent disease control, Stamina F4, because of that F500 molecule, provides excellent plant health. And some of the things we see there are improved stress and cold tolerance, increased vigor, and faster, more consistent germination. If you look to the right side, you'll see some greenhouse flats at the bottom, and that's a cold saturated soil lab study showing the benefit of Stamina F4 and getting those seeds off to a quick start and out of the ground under less than ideal cool conditions. One of the most exciting and effective products that I've worked with in my 17 years at BASF would be Teraxxa Insecticide Seed Treatment. It's absolutely a fantastic tool for reducing wireworm populations in wheat and other cereal crops. Prior to the introduction of Teraxxa Seed Treatment, wireworms were often one of the most difficult and yield-damaging pests found in wheat. One of the things that makes them difficult to manage is that they have many generations that spend their life in the soil. If you didn't know, wireworms are the larval stage of click beetles. And depending upon the species, you may have those larval stage in the ground for 3 to 5 years before they pupate and the adult flies out and mates and starts the cycle all over again. So if you have a wheat seed and you put it in the ground and it begins to respire, starts to grow, that sends signals to wireworms. And if the soil moisture is right, they're going to come up and start feeding. And they can feed on that seed, which prevents germination and can greatly reduce your stand. If conditions aren't exactly right or the population of them is lower, that wheat seed may germinate and you will see a plant emerge. But if soil moisture and conditions are right, those wireworms can continue to feed on the plant, on the roots, as well as the tillers below ground. And in extreme circumstances, they can come up above ground and damage tillers as well. If you haven't untreated, oftentimes you just will have a very reduced stand. The market standard prior to the introduction of Teraxxa did not kill these wireworms. What would happen is a wireworm would come up and feed on a seed or a tiller, and those wireworms would become intoxicated or sick from that insecticide, but they would not die. And so they would go and stop feeding for a while, but eventually they would return And so the next season or the following seasons, you would still have that wireworm potentially in the soil to feed and cause damage. What makes Teraxxa unique is its wireworm mortality. Teraxxa truly kills wireworms that come and feed on it, so you allow that seed to germinate and you get that crop off to a great start. This slide shows photos of some plots where we did Teraxxa seed treatment work in the development stages. On the left, you see an untreated seed where we've got quite a bit of feeding damage, reduced stand from the wireworms. In the middle is Teraxxa, very thick, uniform stand. That's what we like to see. On the right side would be a neonicotinoid, that's Cruiser. There's several other out there, Poncho being the one from BASF. As I mentioned, these don't kill the wireworms. It does repel them and stop some of the feeding damage, but it doesn't totally eliminate it. In addition to protecting your crop and getting it off to a good start, one of the other benefits of Teraxxa is it reduces the wireworm population in the field, which can be a benefit in the crops following your wheat crop. And this is a slide of data from some research trials where we looked at just a fungicide seed treatment and compared it to Teraxxa and then the neonicotinoid Cruiser. And at the end of the season, you'll see a substantial reduction in wireworm population from the Teraxxa treatment. Managing or reducing early season weed competition is one of the best ways you can get your crop off to a good start. Using a pre-plant or pre-emergence herbicide can help you control tough winter annuals, can help you manage tough weeds such as glyphosate-resistant mare's tail. One of the products that BASF has that fits very well in this space would be Sharpen. This is our broadleaf herbicide. Most common, we're using this in wheat at 2 fluid ounces per acre, applied pre-plant or pre-emerge, and it controls a wide range of broadleaf weeds. And if you need the burn down activity prior to planting, particularly in no-till situations, it also fits in very well in those situations. Zidua herbicide is another highly effective tool for getting your crop off to the best start with some residual weed control. Again, it's important to reduce that early season competition. And another benefit of Zidua is its group 15, which provides important resistance management. Many of our post-emergence products that we use in wheat are groups 1, 2, and group 4. This switches up some of the modes of action that those weeds are being exposed to. In my area, we use it extensively for managing some of our tough grass weeds, such as Italian ryegrass or downy brome. May not completely control those weeds with a fall application in winter wheat, but as we get into the spring, any of those weeds that do come through that application tend to be much smaller, and there's less of them, and thus they're easier to manage with our post-emergence applications. Now I'll move into products that fit in that early to mid-season time frame when that wheat crop starts to tiller and puts on a lot of leaf area, which is absolutely critical for producing the photosynthase and energy necessary for the grain. Fungicides fit in very well in this part. They can help prepare the crop for maximum growth and yield potential. And obviously the most important part of a fungicide is protecting against disease development. And all fungicides work best preventatively. So many times these are used at herbicide timing. It offers a low-cost way to get across the field. And it can also be applied with fertilizer, and it gives you preventative control before disease comes in. The products that we have that fit in this space would be Nexicor, Preaxor, and Headline. And while there are some differences in where they best fit, the one thing they all have in common is they contain F500 or pyraclostrobin, which is our plant health molecule. So in addition to getting excellent disease control, that provides us with improved growth and stress tolerance. In the interest of time today, I'm just going to talk about one of these fungicides, and that is Nexicor fungicide. Nexicor really fits well in wheat, primarily because at BASF we designed it for the wheat crop. It has 3 modes of action, and those modes of action or active ingredients work very well together. They're very complementary, so they provide us great health, plant health, as well as disease control. The 3 active ingredients are pyraclostrobin, fluxaperoxide or xemium, and propiconazole. And the benefit of having those 3 together is the propiconazole provides us with some post-infection control, which is that limited period of time after a spore lands on the leaf and starts to germinate and start the infection. and propiconazole can provide us with a little bit of post-infection activity there. Pyraclostrobin and flux peroxide work well with this because they're very long-lasting on the leaf surface and give us that protection from spores that land on the leaf surface and try to germinate. In addition to excellent disease control, as I mentioned, these fungicides have pyraclostrobin, which is our plant health molecule, F500, which gives us increased growth efficiency through additional photosynthesis and nitrogen. And I think one of the biggest benefits is helping manage periods of stress, whether that be from heat, cold, or water stress. This slide shows some photos from a wheat fungicide trial conducted in Kansas. The pest here was stripe rust, and we're looking at flag leaf applications. We have an untreated control, and then we have solo propiconazole, which is one of the active ingredients in Nexicor, and then we have a treatment of 7 fluid ounces in Nexicor. And the fungicide treatments were applied at flag leaf right as rust began to develop in the crop. So if you look at the untreated control, obviously there's quite a bit of stripe rust in there, as you would expect without a fungicide treatment. And then in the black and white photo, that's a canopy rating from the Canopy app, and it's showing that there's just not a lot of leaf material there, which at this point of the crop, those flag leaves are really critical for maximizing our grain size and quality. If you go to propiconazole, you do see that it's an improvement. And as I mentioned, it has that post-infection activity, which can be a benefit for spores that have landed on the leaf surface and started to take hold. However, it doesn't have the staying power that the other active ingredients do. And that's why a product such as Nexicor, with the 3 modes of action, we have the propiconazole for the post-infection, and then the excellent preventive control of the other 2. You see how much better that looks, much greener, much more flag leaf there, much higher canopy number, which is going to result in much better yield. The final product I want to cover is Sphaerex fungicide, which is BASF's tool for managing Fusarium head scab. And unfortunately, if you're in an area where this pathogen is present and the environment is such that it causes problems, you're very aware of it. But for those of you who are not, I'll cover it very briefly. So Fusarium head scab, while it does reduce yield and cause problems there, the bigger issue is that it produces toxins. And that's often referred to as DON. Deoxyvalinol is the one of highest concern, but there's certainly some others in there as well. And these are mycotoxins. And they're highly toxic both to humans and livestock. And because of that, the FDA limits the amount of DON that can be present in cereals for baking, and then in the case of barley for malting. If left untreated, Fusarium head scab can produce these toxins, which can, if the levels are high enough, can result in a very high level of dockage or price reduction for your crop. And that's why if you're in one of these areas where it's present, it's very important to be diligent and preventative of it in order to maintain the value of your crop. Sphaerex fungicide is a fantastic product in working against this pathogen and this issue. Sphaerex has 2 active ingredients that are both highly effective on head scab. Those would be metconazole, which you may recognize from our previous product, Caramba, and then prothioconazole, which can be found in Proline. By putting these 2 together, we see a higher level of Fusarium head blight control and, more importantly, reduction in the levels of DON. This slide is a summary of some research trials conducted in Ohio, an area with some high levels of Fusarium head blight. And what you have is you have the blue bars, which are representing the yield in bushels per acre, and then the orange line shows the DON level and samples taken from those plots. So if you look at the blue bars on the left is the untreated control with 66 bushels. Then the fungicide treatments, we have Preaxor early on, followed by Sphaerex at flowering. Then we have Miravis Ace at flowering, Prosaro at flowering, and Sphaerex at flowering. The highest yield was from that combination treatment of Preaxor fungicide early on, followed by the Sphaerex, but they all yielded higher than the untreated control. And if you look specifically at the levels of DON, you'll see the untreated check was very high at 4.55 parts per million, whereas the best reduction overall was from the Sphaerex treatment at 2.12. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share with you some of the BASF solutions for pest problems in wheat. If you'd like to learn more about the products I covered or any other BASF products, please reach out to your local BASF rep. Thank you.